action, and of course our parrot demonstration. Now, my name is Charlie, and we're also joined with Leanne this afternoon, and we've got Stacey and Emma as well. So we're all going to be trying to introduce our birds to our fantastic new arena that, of course, we have been built this afternoon. So we are very, very thankful. Now, we are just going to walk around first of all, just introduce the birds to it, see how they're feeling about all these new things that is around them. So, of course, first of all, what I'm going to introduce you to these guys. So, over with me is our little Merlin. So, Merlin is, oh, we're spitting at it already, that's a good start. So, Merlin is a military macaw. Now, his species is found out in Central and South America. He's, of course, this lovely green uniform on. You can imagine him right at the top of those canopies out in the rainforest. He's going to blend in ever so well. And, of course, he's got really striking colours on him. Oh, he took smart pets on him to show that. Now, Kevin, who you briefly met, Kevin plays away every single demonstration. Don't worry about him. We'll get him back in a sec. So he is, of course, our lesson race and social crested competition. Now, we are, of course, used to Kevin doing this quite frequently, so I'm not surprised that he's blown away this afternoon from all what's going on. But let's see if our Merlin would like to do something on our branches here. Merlin, do you fancy going on that? Look at him leading the way. He is a little bit scared. Is it okay, Merlin? No, okay, you want to seek comfort onto my shoulder. Okay. So, of course, they are going to be a bit spooked by all these new things. It is all brand new to them, and they don't really like changes, your birds. Parrots are really intelligent. They've got the mental age of a 3 to 4-year-old child. So we do have to do lots of different things to keep them nice and stimulated, but doing things that are new and introducing new items takes a long time. Look, Merlin, you've got a little nut on there. Do you fancy going over? Have a look. Oh, new items. He's thinking about it. There's nuts involved, so he really wants it, but he's going to think about it. So Merlin, his best friend is Boomer, so all of our birds are in pairs, or we put them in trios, so they've always got partners and friends when our keepers go home. So none of our birds are kept on their own. This is really important for parrots. They're really sociable animals. They spend their whole lives paired up because they are monogamous, so they pair up for life. You thinking about it? Do you want to just come to me? No? Okay. Oh yeah, you are. Oh, good boy. So, of course, it is really important that they've always got a best friend or someone to always be with when our keepers go home for the evening. So, with your parrots, they do lots of different behaviours to show that they really like each other. So, Merlin, what he does is he blushes red. So, usually around his face, it's quite pale, but we can see right now he's very excited. There's lots going on. So, he is going to be a little bit spooked by these things. Let's see if Merlin fancies going a little bit off the road this afternoon. Would you feel safe up high? There we go, so we're nice up high. So parrots, of course, because they're birds, they do feel their safety for being higher up. So it might just be that Merlin feels a bit comfortable going up, seeing those surroundings. Let's see if you'd like to work on coming down to any parts of the road. Now it will take these guys probably about a week to get fully focused and used to this new arena for them. But that's the whole point of this, is that we really needed revamping. It needed sorting out because it was looking a little bit grubby. Now we're going to introduce these birds really slowly, and you can see we are using really high valued food items. We're using things like nuts because we know that's how we get through to our birds. It's through their tummies. So out in the wild they have a really varied diet of lots of nuts, fruits, buds off the trees. And in captivity, we can't always replicate that exact diet. So instead, what we'll do is we actually, he's like, no way. What we'll do instead is we give them more vegetables, we give them a pellet diet, it's much better for them. And of course, it just enables us to give all their nutritional quality without having to obviously get any artificial fruit or things over into the UK, which you can't easily get. Now let's see if Merlin wants to do a little bit of flying. Maybe he'll feel a bit more comfortable doing something that you already know. Now, of course, with our parrots, though, as well, because they are so intelligent, the whole idea of this arena, the whole idea of doing this, was to give them more things to do. So our shows essentially have become very similar, so we haven't really done much kind of change up, we haven't really done anything really with them over the last few years. They've always worked in the same arena. So actually the whole idea of this is to give our birds a little bit more scope on stuff that we can interact with. You can see we've got over the left there a little nest box. That's really important. Merlin actually did used to do the nest box behaviour, but I very much doubt he's going to do it this afternoon. But we can build on this again and get our birds to nice little puzzle maker at the back here as well. So the whole idea of that is they drop it in, and then as it goes down, the little token, they get a reward for doing so. So all of these things are just really great ways that we can really kind of motivate our birds and give them more challenging things around our arena here. Now it looks like neither of these two will do much today. No. Okay. Well, maybe we'll try and pop these two away if we can, and then try and see if we can get out another parrot. I think Merlin's taking it all in at the moment, so we might just have to pop Wilma back in and then see. Oh, we're going to go for it. Yay, there you go, Wilma. Well done. She's pulling it up. So this is a great way to show you guys natural behaviours that our parrots would do out in the wild. So as you see Wilma there, she's pulling up that coconut pot. She's using her beak and her feet together in order to get to the nut. That's a really good thing that she's done there, because that's a brand new environment for her to start playing with that. So that's actually really good for Wilma. Well done, Wilma. Now parrots have got amazing feet. Their feet are known as zygodactyl. They've got 2 toes pointing forward and 2 toes pointing back. So the whole idea of their feet is to work like a little clamp. It essentially gets really, really tight. They can dangle down on things. They can hang all the way down. They can hang from their feet. They can do all sorts of things in order to get their food. What are you doing? Sitting around there, Mary. How about you come down the road then? So all of this is really, really easy for them to do. And you can see it takes no energy for them to get around. Out in the rainforest, not all their food is going to be easy to access. They can't always fly down to it. So instead, birds like Wilma and Merlin will pull things up towards them instead, or they'll climb down it using that beak and those feet together. Now with that parrot beak though, it is the Swiss Army knife of the parrot world. Well, they've got so many adaptations with it. The fact that their lower part of their beak is really flexible, it moves around, and the top part is a solid structure. It's that made out of keratin, which is the same substance as your fingernails and your hair. When you compact it together, well, you can see there, it's curved, it's a pretty good weapon, and it's a great nutcracker. They can do loads of things with that nutcracker. Oh, Wilma, well done. She's even swinging on the perch. So all these things are really important for our parrots out in the wild, cracking into nuts, getting those really tough, dexterous fruits as well. And most importantly, they've also got a bone in their tongue. And as you can see, I'll walk around with Merlin, you can actually see how he can use that little bone in his tongue to move around all the little nuts inside there, move it to exactly where he wants it, and then of course he'll use it and then he'll swallow it. So it's really amazing how they use that tongue to obviously help them get into all those difficult areas and difficult fruits and nuts out there in the rainforest. Okay, well we've done actually pretty good so far. Let's keep going. So we've done a swing perch. Who have we got? Zoe. Okay, let's go out with Zoe. So what I'll do is I'll hand you over to Emma now to see get Zoe to do a few things. Okay, yeah, thank you. So this is our gorgeous Zoe. Now Zoe is fully grown. We'll have a little wander around that chin at the start with his teeth. We're going to wave at everyone first. So lots of people always think Zoe is a baby just because she's so small, but she's just a smaller species. So you briefly saw Peppy. So Peppy is a very similar species. They are different. We're going to look at that. We're going to look at this new patch. Just looking at everything. A lot of people always think that Peppy's a bigger version and Zoe is a little baby version. She's actually 30, so we're not a baby, we're fully grown. So yeah, she is a species of cockatoo, and they're commonly known as the yellow-crested cockatoo, or they're sometimes known as the lesser sulphur-crested cockatoo. Peppy is a greater sulphur-crested cockatoo. Wow, is that too terrifying? Is that scary? No! You're not even going to see her, I'm too scared of everything there. Now Zoe, you're going to find out a part of Indonesia. So, Peppy, look, she's funny. You can tell we'll go back to talk about what she is. She's part of that cockatoo family, and the reason, or the way you can tell that, is because like with Peppy, there's a big crest on her head. So the reason she's raising it up is because she's a little bit alarmed. She's not entirely sure what is going on, what's suddenly so different over here than what this one is. So that crest they can move. So that is the yellow feathers on top of their head, which is where she gets the name, yellow crest. And they can move that crest. So if they're feeling threatened, if they're feeling alarmed, if they're not going on, and also if they're excited too. So hopefully soon you won't be good girl though, that's okay. So they're going to use that to communicate, that crest. So if you can raise it up like this, all that is their way of saying, actually I'm a bit nervous about something, and I'm feeling we have a feeling we may go to the top end there. See how we're getting on. So it's pretty good. Now Zoe, you can find out in the wild in parts of lovely way to help to mitigate against deforestation and help to protect loads and loads of species too. And the third one was talking about is the illegal pet trade. Now that is a big, big problem. What the illegal pet trade is basically where people go, whoa, I'm too scary that time. I thought I'd try and take it to a different direction. It's where people go out into the wild. So people will go out into those Indonesian islands where so many species are found. They'll take them, they'll put them into plastic bottles, into stick cases, into all sorts of horrible things. Unfortunately, not many of them do survive their transit in a plastic bottle. It's not tremendously shocking, is it? But if they do, they then get sold into the pet trade. So we're not going to say don't have a parrot as a pet. But as you can see, parrots are far too scary. It's Charlie much safer than I am. She's not taking you to the scary places. But all we're going to say is if you want to have one, are you okay? If you want to have a parrot, just make sure that you know where they came from. Make sure you haven't added to that illegal pet trade. Make sure that you know where they're from a breeder. Even better, you can rehome them. Zoe is an expat herself, so she was someone's pet. They brought her to us when they realised I couldn't give her the care that she needed. So they're very complex. But if you are willing to, you do your research, you know exactly that you know how to care for them, you can spend all the time using enrichment, lots of bits like this, doing loads of training to keep them using that big brain of theirs, then definitely look into rehoming, things like that as well, just so we're not contributing to that illegal pet trade. Now, like you can see, what we're doing at the moment, it's a little bit of a demonstration of two things, but they are doing pretty well. They're getting a bit braver now. It just takes them a little bit of time to realise that something new isn't going to happen. They just get a little bit scared. But as I said, they're learning capabilities, that cognitive ability of a child up to the age of 5. So they've got all those same processes as children. They're going to be scared of these things, but they are very, very trainable. Like Charlie's mentioning, we are doing at the moment today, we're also new way using nuts. We're using really high value rewards, things that are really, really nice, really, really yummy. Zoe's actually really enjoying this. Zoe's feeling a lot braver on her swing now as well. So by you doing training through this, as opposed to forcing them, you'll see when Zoe decides it's all too terrifying, it's fine. We'll just try and encourage her to keep going. I'm never going to force her to do something, and we're never going to use punishment. If she decided to fly to the rope and not the church, that's fine. We're not going to use punishment with them, we're going to use positive reinforcement, which is basically when they do something we ask, they get a positive reward. So today that is high volume, it's nuts, it's their favourite thing, because they absolutely love it, and it means that we're telling them this actually is okay, and it's actually not that terrifying. Now training is really important, so we train lots and lots of different things. We train them to do new things, we train new behaviours too. Some of the behaviours we train are maybe a bit silly, and that is because they're so intelligent. We want to keep them trying, keep them using that big brain of theirs, but also we train behaviours that allow us to keep them safe and happy. So training them helps them behaviour. Something as simple as training them to stand in a set of scales is really important. It means every single day we can weigh our birds. That means that every single day we can keep an eye on them. There's a change, there's an issue, everything like that. By training it means it's scary. They know they're going to step on the scale. It's not scary, they're going to get a reward afterwards. Training them to open their beak, so let's have a look inside, give them their feet. Oh, that was far too terrifying. Oh, he's not sure what he's going now. Everything's a little bit scary, all looks so different. But training them to open their beak, give them their feet, so they can check their hair, check their wings, check their feathers. By training it to make it positive, make it fun, to make it happy for us and for them, and it creates a nice bond. As you can see here, Zoe will obviously be far too scary, taking her around everything. She's free to Charlie. Zoe's trying to have a wonderful time. Charlie's worked there for 4 years, so they are very, very close. And as you can see, Zoe felt a lot safer. We're trying. She's not really happy suddenly with everything. We're just far too scary. Which is why training is important. It increases that bond. If we force Zoe, if I get a forcing Zoe to be scary, all that's going to teach her is that I'm not very nice. So by training, making it positive, making it fun, making it all on their terms, the most important thing, it just means that we can, as I say, keep everything nice and happy. Now we're talking a lot about threats that parrots face. Obviously our birds here are pretty safe, they don't have to worry about any of those threats. But in the wild, some of them do, especially like Zoe, who as I said are pretty endangered. Yo-Yo here, he is classed as least concern, which means in the wild they're doing okay, they're breathing nicely, their numbers are good. Merlin, his species, the birds before, they are vulnerable, which means they're not quite where we want them to be, but they're not quite at the endangered level yet. Now as well as teaching you guys about things that you can do to help, something else that we like to do is we raise money for a wonderful charity called the World Parrot Trust. And what they do is they help to mitigate against all those threats. They help to mitigate against deforestation, illegal pet trade, anything, or was that far too scary too? Anything like that as well. So we raise money for a
So if you do have any donations, anything at all like that, we'll see if Zoe wants to put somebody in here. But we have just had a lovely brand new donation pot made coming from that front perch as well. Okay. So if you do have any donations, anything at all, it's greatly appreciated. 100% of everything goes towards that charity. And as I say, it's your amazing work. Keeping species like Zoe here alive in the world. There's another species of cockatoo called the Aboti cockatoo. They look just like Zoe, but they're a little bit bigger. There's actually 24 of them left in the wild. That's it. So they're working with them to try to keep those numbers going, trying to keep them alive, to keep that species here for future generations of us to see and enjoy around the world. So anybody you have any donations, literally anything at all, is massively appreciated. And also making sure those things we talked about, FSC for your wood and pollution recycling, makes a huge difference. Now I think our birds have done pretty well out here. Obviously Zoe's decided it's a bit scary, but she'll give you a little wave now she's come back here. And I think they've done pretty well. So